E-L-O-E-J, a little aloha in our day. Spread a little aloha around the world. At breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Welcome, everybody. Breakfast with Bob, not quite Kona edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. We are brought to you by Hoka One Master Spas, Clash USA, You Can Hyper Ice, Premium Plus Sports, and of course, Form Smart Swim Goggles, and our Challenge Athletes Foundation. During COVID, we sent out 3,038 grants totaling $5.1 million to keep challenged athletes in the game of life through sport. One of our favorite people on the planet joins us today. He is a three-time Olympian, four-time ITU world champion, two-time Ironman champion, one-time world record holder, just coached the Super League championship team. Mr. Tim John joins us. How you doing, Tim?
I'm very well, thank you. I am very gutted. I haven't been in Kona for the last couple of weeks, but next year will make it all the more sweeter.
You'll be back, right?
That's it. Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, I'll be back.
Racing?
Definitely not in the new Kona, but in Kona. Yeah, hopefully. Yes. I'm hopefully going to do an early, once they release the pro calendar, I'm hoping to do Ironman South Africa or Ironman Philippines is a new one, but we don't know if either of them have a professional field yet, and they're early season. So hopefully I can do the business there and get back to the Big Island to race in October.
I love that. Let's talk a little Super League, because I as a guy who did the first ever Olympic Games back in 2000, I bet you're loving all the new innovation in the sport and what Chris McCormick has brought to the game with Super League and with Collins Cup and so much cool stuff happening right now. And I loved what they did with the what Super League did earlier in London with the virtual game, right?
The arena games.
The arena game. That was unbelievable. So talk a little bit about just being a captain for your Screaming Eagles, and talk a little bit about what that meant to you and what you learned from that.
Oh, it was just such a blast. I mean, being the team manager for the Eagles, first of all, we had a draft. So we had a snake draft. So we actually had to pick the teams. I'd done my homework, and I wasn't just trying to pick people who were going to win, because we knew that there were certain points for fastest swimmer, fastest biker, and then the winner of the races. So you can get more points. Only one person can win, but that person probably wouldn't get the swim preem and the bike preem. So I kind of looked down the road to try and get more points from that with my athletes that I picked. And then, I think the brilliant thing about the Super League this year, and obviously they missed the year with COVID, is that it was 4 races, 4 weeks. So the hype, the momentum, the energy, it just kept building. And 80% of all the athletes, when they turned up at London, which was the first one, to the grand final in Malibu, which was just awesome, they traveled together, they stayed together. Super League did a month accommodation, food, everything for all of the athletes if they wanted to stay kind of like in the bubble and just travel around. And that really brought the kind of the dynamics of the teams involved. At the first kind of race, people were talking about how they were going to do and this, that, the other. By the meals before the last race, everyone's like going, the Eagles are doing this, the Scorpions, and if we do that, if you get the short shoot, that's going to stop them from getting it, so that's going to help us get more points. And it was brilliant to see the athletes buy in. And as you said earlier, there's so much innovation in our sport at the moment. We've got the Super League at one spectrum, which is a 15-minute race, and then you've got these new match races with the Collins Cup, through the PTO, and it's just brilliant. I mean, I think the sport's really healthy at the moment for the pros. I really do.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's the fact when COVID hit, and I think PTO made a major statement by paying people bonuses, even though there was no races, right? Which I think kept
some athletes had retired and they were still paying them their bonuses. It was mad. They were just throwing the money away. I love it.
Yeah. When I look at your team with Jess Learmonth and Vicky Holland, Alex Yee and Taylor Spivey, talk a little bit about Alex Yee, because here's a kid who is just, because you were there when Brownlee got going. And so seeing this kid come in, compare the two and what your thoughts are on this young man and his upside.
I think you know, no disrespect to either athlete, personalities, they're so different at the moment, you know, but you can't really compare, because Alistair is that alpha dominant male who has to, you know, beat his chest because everyone wants to beat him, and that's because he's just such a phenomenal athlete. And you know, he's created that aura around him by, you know, I think Beijing Olympics was Alistair Brownlee's breakthrough. He didn't win it, but he went to the front and he led for the first 4 or 5K of the run, and then he blew up in his terms. But I think that gave him the confidence. And I think if the Olympics had been last year without COVID, I don't think Alex Yee would have maybe made the team. Even January this year, you would have probably they would have picked Alistair ahead of him. But then what he did at Leeds, that was when, you know, they often say at that level, you're physically ready to do something special a lot before you're mentally ready. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that with him. You know, he has the weapon, which is his run. He's you know, he's improving his open water swimming. He's getting more confident on the bike, riding closer to the front of the packs, doing more work. And I think Leeds, it came together, and that race, that was the watershed moment for Alex Yee. And the beauty about that is he hasn't changed since then. I saw him actually yesterday in a coffee shop, because we train at the High Performance Center. He was just there having coffee with his girlfriend. Someone had recognized him, went to chat to him. I just waved and just left him, you know, so he can have his time, but he's not changed at all. And, you know, what he did in the Super League, the great thing about the Super League, the ITU athletes, is that they've been craving the technicality of racing, nailing the transitions, just that nervous energy, and they've missed the whole year. I feel sorry for the athletes who in 2020, they were last year juniors, last year under 23s, because that could have been the year they could have been world champion, and they missed that opportunity, and now they've gone to seniors. Well, Super League, it was basically like Malibu was 3 races, so it's like 3 WTSs in one day, and he just embraced that, and he but he honed his skills in, and he was always thinking, he was always, you know, some of the messages back and forth about, I would always walk the course the day before and film it, send some video footage to my team. You know, we'd have in-depth conversations about where we're going to start and why the women wanted to start there, because they're really strong swimmers with Jess, Victoria and Vicky. Mm-hmm. And then the men are not so strong swimmers, so they wanted to choose a different position. And, you know, so it really was kind of like working together as a team. And, yeah, that young kid, Alex Yee, you know, he's got a bright future. He really has.
So you've been there from when we were talking the Olympics in 2000 and how it has changed. And it seemed like Alistair was a big part of that, because the impression from the outside, from us people in the States, where we didn't quite understand the draft legal aspect of it, we looked at it as people would swim really fast, they'd ride around, and then the fastest runner would win. And it seemed like when Alistair came in, all of a sudden the bike changed. All of a sudden it was Alistair yelling at people and going, you know, let's go, come on, I'm not going to sit here, we're going to go. And was that when things changed? Because I look at the guys coming out of ITU now, used to be the bike was the weakness. Now it's not. Everybody coming out can ride the bike.
Well, look at Gustav at World 70.3.
Exactly.
You know, no, absolutely. I think, you know, Alistair, he was he was the dominant force, and he really likes to put people under pressure physically and mentally. And yeah, I mean, you know, 1995 was the first ever draft legal world championships. And you're quite right. There were probably 80 professional men racing in Cancun, and it was up and down that strip at Cancun, and they had to swim hard, but it all came together. There were 80 people floating around on a bike, and then it became a run. And definitely Alistair was he was really instrumental for the male side of things, changing the dynamics, because they would get a lead group and they were willing to work. They weren't like, I made the lead group, I can wait now for the run. They were like, hang on, we're in the lead group. There's only 8 people. I'd rather only run against 8 people than everyone catch us and run against 50 people. I've got better odds here. So again, and the great thing about Alistair is, yes, he's vocal and he's very aggressive, but he's also willing to do the work. He is not shy of working in a race. He will always do double turns if the pace slows down. He'll always be pushing the pace on the uphill. You know, in his way, he is encouraging people. Some people might not see it like that, but no, he definitely brought the sport on. And similar with the women's race, I would say that almost happened before Alistair, because I think it was around probably around 2000 and 2002 to 2006, we had the likes of Barb Lindquist, who I think is with the USAT now, Sheila Torremolina, I think that's how you pronounce her name, Loretta Harrop, and they would swim really hard and they would go, let's work together. And they would come off the bike with a 2-3 minute lead. So that development, it took the women, they changed the dynamics of the racing in different times, but without a doubt, the bike is very important. They're not riding around at 200 watts. Maybe they're only averaging, say, 320 watts, but they have that variability where they're pushing 450, 300, 450, and that really saps your legs. So yeah, they're leaving the sport and coming on to 70.3 and Ironman, more complete athletes. Absolutely.
No question about it. So when we interviewed you for 2017, I have to look at as one of your greatest years. You go to 740 in Brazil, break the world record, 70.3 at a great race, and you come to Kona ready to win that thing or be on the podium. And then hit by a car, actually the day after our interview, we chatted on Tuesday. Yeah. On Wednesday, you get hit by a car and you got the halo. And then we see you at Boston Marathon, right? Running a 2:49. And when you were injured, we didn't know if you would ever walk again. I mean, it was really scary time. What was the lowest moment for you dealing with having a broken neck, being in a halo, not being able to sleep? That there had to be some real dark times for you.
Yeah, I think initially it wasn't that bad because it happened so quickly, and you're very much in the hands of the professionals, the doctors, the surgeons. And if you go to a doctor with a chest infection and they say, oh, you've got strep throat, take antibiotics, you're just going to do it. You're not going to question them. So when they said we're doing this, this, and this, it's probably about 2 or 3 weeks later when I was off the kind of heavy medication, the codeine-based pain meds, and more on ibuprofen, paracetamol. And that's when my neck wasn't so painful, but obviously all the screws. And that's when I was, that was when it was really tough because, in your own world, you think the world's forgotten about you. I've seen everyone's amazing performances in Hawaii. Then Arizona was on the horizon, and people are talking, about this race, that race, Cozumel Ironman, Western Australia, and there's me, and I can't even sleep in a chair upright. I can't get the milk at the back of the fridge. Can't put my socks on. My wife had to put my socks on for 3 months. Those are some really tough times for me personally. And again, we're so goal orientated. Whether it's focusing on the process to the goal, or when you're younger, you just want that goal. You do whatever it takes to win that. You just want to win, and I've had the full spectrum, and I really lost my way then. And I struggled. It took me a good, 4 or 5 weeks to say, right, my goal today is to try and get all my clothes out the drawers without asking Kelly for help. That's my goal. Okay, I've done that. Right, now I'm going to try and get downstairs before anyone's awake and get the bowls out the cupboard for the cereal for my kids. And I had to really go down to real kind of like basics, because that was my goal, and that's what really helped me. And slowly but surely, the goals become bigger, more lofty. It was about 6 weeks after I got in the gym, and I did 5 minutes at like 90 watts not even on Zwift, just on like a spin bike. Yeah, totally. And that's that. When I came home, that's when I was like, right, let's do this. And that's when I really kind of upped the tempo and thought, whatever happens, I'm going to end it on my terms. And my terms are, I'm not going to end it right now. I want to get back on the start line as a professional athlete.
Well, and when we saw you in Boston, and my main concern was that was one of the worst days ever. And I'm like, Tim, do not slip, do not fall. It's pouring rain out here. It's cold, man. There could be icy stuff out there. I was seriously worried that whole time when you were running, going, oh my God, the last thing we need is this guy to fall down and hurt himself.
I was just thinking of you running in that Elvis suit. It must have just been like 10 kilograms. Because you could have worn the most expensive Gore-Tex in the world. You were still going to get wet to the bone. And it was a headwind. So yeah. It was my only ever marathon outside of an Ironman. And it was an amazing experience. I think in the maybe not for the professionals at the front, where it's their livelihood and it got very cold, but those guys who finished, it really gave them that sense of achievement. It's something you're always going to remember and go, can you remember that year in Boston that it was, yep, I was there. That was the one I did it. They're like, oh my gosh. So yeah, now I look back, but when I finished, I was so glad my hotel was really close. Is it Copeland Square? It was on Copeland Square. And I went straight back into my room, had a bath and a cup of tea, and I couldn't even undo my shoelaces. My friend who was with me, he had to undo my shoelaces because it was, it was just bonkers.
So speaking of cold, then Patagonia man, right? 51 degree water. Now, of course, you're UK, you're used to cold water. 51 for that distance. That's how long did it take you when you got out of well, first of all, when you get in and think about, okay, I'm going to be here for a while. That type of cold is just unbelievable.
The first thing is we obviously, similar to Norseman, we go out in a boat. So the only way in the water is to jump about 3 meters off the boat. And they said, we've got 10 minutes till the start. And everyone's jumping in the water. And I'm thinking, these guys are mad. I know they want to get on the front, but it's only 200 athletes. It's going to be a long day in the office. When they said like a minute to go, I jumped in, and I did race with gloves and booties. And everyone was like, you've got to watch your heart rate, start slow. I started as fast as I could. I treated it like 400 meter max effort because I wanted to get the blood pumping. I wanted to warm my body up, really get going. And then I settled into a rhythm. But it was cold, but I think I managed it quite well. And the great thing about the Patagonia man was when you come out, you've got your support crew. So mine was Gav, one of my good friends who we grew up together, and he's allowed to help you in transition. If he wasn't there, there was no chance. If we didn't have support crew, no one would have been able to take their wetsuits.
You couldn't put shoes on. You couldn't put anything on.
Yeah, literally. But we were lucky. Because I arrived the week before, and 2 weeks before the race, there was snow on the top of the pass. Well, when we got there, it was wet, but it was getting better. And the day of the race on the run, it was kind of close to 30 degrees. So we were very lucky. But once I got going on the bike, I didn't have anything extra warm on at all. I had my normal race suit. I had do you know when you play golf? Well, when you play golf in England, it's very cold in the winter, so you have those hand warmers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I had some of those in my shoes and in my gloves on the back of my hand. But apart from that, I didn't have anything extra because, again, I wanted to get going. There was a climb from the fjord onto the main road, and I rode as hard as I could. And it was just more the extremities that were suffering, my feet and my hands. But I know if I can keep my core warm, keep the organs warm, then the blood's going to still be going to the muscles, and I can keep going. But such an experience. And Patagonia as a region is just like breathtaking. And afterwards we went up to the Atacama Desert, way in the north, and we were there for 5 days. We climbed a mountain that was nearly, I think it was like 6,500 meters. So that's like nearly 18,000 feet. It was just, phenomenal. It was an amazing place.
So after you go through what you went through with breaking your neck, did it change the way you approach life? Because not that you've ever been shy about having goals and going after whatever you want in life, but sometimes it changes people to the point of, I got to live every second, because you never know.
Yeah, to a degree. I think, I think I count my blessings every day, and I'm not going to wait for something to happen. I'm going to try and create that situation or that opportunity, because you never know what's around the corner. I'm so fortunate. The style of life a professional triathlete leads. I've got a young family, an 11-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son, and I can see them. I'm not 9 to 5 in the office. If there's a hockey game, I can go and watch my daughter play field hockey. Hugo's got swimming after school, I can take him there. And I really take the opportunity to do as much of that. And also when I'm training now, I really go all in, especially when I'm spending time away from my family on a training camp or, at a race. But no, you've got to live life, every day as best you can. And maybe you don't think like that at the time, but hopefully when you look back, the average of a week is good. The average of a month is even better. And, you kind of got to go, don't get me wrong, life's not rosy, life's not perfect, but, you've got to really live those moments as best you can.
When I saw that you had signed up to be a Paralympic guide, I'm like, of course he did. I mean, he almost was a Paralympic athlete. What was that experience like for you being in Tokyo, even as an alternate? You didn't get the race, but you were there.
Humbling. I mean, not just that. I still train with the Paralympic squad here. I swim 4 times a week with them. Just phenomenal athletes, and their drive and dedication. And I think what people don't realize about the Paralympics and the sport of triathlon is every 3 years before the next Paralympic Games, they decide what category is in.
Yes.
So VI might not be in Paris, and they do not know that. So Dave, who I've been working with, he's changed. He didn't go to Rio because VIs, the visually impaired, were not in Rio. He went to Tokyo as the current 3-time world champion and won the Paralympic test event with myself. And his chain snapped, freak thing. His bicycle chain snapped. End of his race.
That's right.
He does not know if he will be racing in Paris because there's not enough, scope, money to have all the categories. So, that alone, can you imagine? You don't know if it's going to be Ironman 70.3, Super League, ITU in the next Olympic Games, and you can only choose one. So if I'm an Ironman athlete, I can't then, okay, I'm going to be a Super League. You're in your category, and we do not know until 3 years out. But I think, the stories I've heard from the athletes I've trained with, and what they've been through, it's humbling. But the great thing is they just crack on. They really are. They're just amazing people. George Peasgood is he's a PT5, and he got a silver medal in triathlon, and 4 days later he got a bronze medal in time trialing. These guys are talented. It's really an enjoyable environment for me to be in. I love it.
It's funny because we go through that a lot with Challenge Athlete Foundation. We had, I think in Rio, you had the visually impaired women.
Women, correct.
Not the guys. And this time it was the guys and the women, fortunately. Yeah. But we had one of our guys, Mohammed Lana, who took a bronze in Rio. His category's gone. The single gone for the next time. Yeah. So he tried to make it in cycling. So it's you, like you said, you don't know what's going to happen.
Brutal.
Next.
Absolutely
really
brutal.
And when you're out there, you're going, wait a second, why are they limiting the categories? It's not like it's crowded out there. We got that's something we're all more athletes, more athletes, more time. And I loved watching this year with Lauren Parker and Kendall Gretsch having the sprint 1 second between gold and silver that's what will bring attention to the Paralympics.
And the way it happened, I mean, they started the run, the push they decided to push maybe 2 minutes apart, and it was just closing. So it wasn't like, oh, who's going to win the sprint? It was like, oh no, she's never going to catch her. Oh, she might catch her. She is going to catch her. It was on the edge of your seat stuff. And, both amazing athletes in their own right. And as you say, that it's really exciting racing. It's just, I was very fortunate to be in Tokyo for that time.
So the transition for you, because you've been an Olympic athlete, you missed the 2012 games. You're on it for 2012. Did you think right away you're going to move to longer distance, or were you wondering if, gosh, do I even want to do that?
100%. I wanted to go to Kona. When I first started in the sport, it wasn't an Olympic sport. I wanted to have an ITU career, and then I wanted to go to Kona and see what I could do there. Someone like Greg Welch, he was the first ever ITU world champion and Kona champion. Obviously, Chris McCormack followed that, but kind of like before my time, that was who did he win in America, the Mickey Mouse Worlds in Disneyland, the ITU?
He did, 1990. Yes.
Yeah. He then went on, so I always wanted to go long, and, being quite, pragmatic about it. I always say, if I'm gone for coffee now and someone says, I get chatting to someone, say in England, and they say, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a triathlete. Oh, my friend does that. Oh, yeah, I'm a professional. The first thing they would say is, oh, have you been to the Olympics? Well, in America, if I'm having a coffee and the same thing happens, and I say, oh, yes, I'm a professional triathlete, they say, oh, have you done Kona? Have you been to the Hawaii Ironman? And I realized if I wanted to carry on being a professional, having sponsorship, getting appearance money, being able to have my livelihood, I had to get out of Dodge and leave the UK. And yeah, so it was October 2012. I went to Boulder with my wife, Kelly. I'd already been there in 2002. And I took her there for a week. And she said, okay, let's do that. We managed to get I got a visa. And it was April the 4th, 2013. We moved to Boulder. And yeah, we lived there for 6 years. And I started to work with Julie Dibbins. Yeah, the first 2013 was a tough year. I was absolutely nailing these run sessions. Julie's like, oh my gosh, these are some of the best run sessions I've ever seen a 70.3 athlete do. And I turned up to my first race and I ran like a 120 because I just wasn't used to 90K in the position with that consistency of the pressure. I can go fast, slow. And yeah, it really took me a while to kind of like take my foot off the gas with the run. We were getting excited, pushing the run even more. But then we said, no, let's go back and then let's go. And so it did take a while to find my feet. But, you know, by the end of 2013 and 2014, I got third at the World 70.3s. And that was the great year because Javi won, Jan was second, and I was third. And then, yeah, 2 weeks later in Mallorca, I did my first ever Ironman. And I was fortunate enough to win it. And that qualified me for 2015. So I think it was 2 weeks before Kona 2014, I qualified for Kona 2015. Yeah, so yeah, it was you've got to learn quick in our sport because no one waits for anyone. And you know, I'm so fortunate with the sponsors I've got, but I know so many sponsors now, they're so hungry for results. And now everything's out there on social media, and there is that mixture of perception can be reality, and that can be really unfortunate for some athletes where they have a bad run of events and it's so open and so public that you can lose them. And yeah, there's so many athletes who have been amazing but have never really made it, you know, through the current climate of social media.
You know, similar to what you saw on the ITU side, when I look at the biggest change in long distance racing, it's the bike. It is amazing how fast people are. I mean, starting with, you know, the Cameron Wurf coming out there and Andrew Starkowitz and guys like that, and getting to the point where these guys aren't just, oh, we don't have to worry about them because they can't run. Well, they're running. Cam Wurf's coming off the bike and running, you know, sub 250 or in Kona 255. How have you had to adapt to the fact that one, you're aging a little bit, but also the ante keeps getting they keep up in the ante on how fast people are riding a bike?
You know, I think I was one of the early guys that really bought into specific bike training and aerodynamics. And, you know, I've been in the wind tunnel so many times. We've specialized in Morgan Hill in California, but also working with Matt Botchell, my bike coach, who he helped Victor Campanaris break the hour record. He works with Lotto in their aerodynamic program. And he himself was a professional rider in Bradley Wiggins' era. And, you know, so we really honed in on that. So, it wasn't just about going in the wind tunnel and making you look fast. It was doing drills so you could actually, you know, I could set you up and you could be in a more aerodynamic position than everyone, but can you ride 180K in that position and then run a marathon? Yep. So we kind of like put the jigsaw together like that. But yeah, going forward, you know, as you said, I'm 44 in January, so I'm no spring chicken. I can't race as frequently, unfortunately, because, you know, my body just can't take all of that intensity. So I need to have a specific goal and a real good build leading up to it. But I think, you know, what I lacks the wrong word, what I can't do in maybe the intensity, especially the run, you gain an experience, you know, and I'm fortunate that coming through ITU, swimming is, I wouldn't say it's my strong suit, but I'm always coming out in the lead group. So straight away, I'm not on the back foot. Transitions are very, very chilled compared to the old ITU days. So again, you know, the technicality of some of the aspects of 70.3 and Ironman aren't, you know, just come naturally to me. But yeah, without a doubt, it's moving on, and we need to find ways to keep racing and to keep going. You know, I think going forward, I think what people are most excited about next year, in one way, is that they're going to have a full season. You know, that there are going to be races that hopefully we're not going to be going, well, is it going to move? Is it going to be cancelled? But then saying that, we've got 2 Konas next year. World 70.3s are after Kona. There's talk of this Collins Cup being 3 more races. You know, there's so much going on and uncertainty that we need all of these people to come together and stop having races on the same day. You know, it's crazy to have an Ironman and a Collins Cup 7 days apart. You're going to split the field, or people are going to do both but not perform at their best. And that's one thing I think Ironman, the longer distance, doesn't really help itself at the moment. And I guess there is politics, but when politics goes wrong, it's the athletes that suffer. It really is.
It's true.
And the fans as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I mean, from a media perspective, everybody wants the best people on the starting line together. We want to see everybody in St. George. We want to see everybody in Kona. Then we want to see everybody at 70.3 Worlds, but we also want to see people at Collins Cup and all these.
And then
all
breaking 7 next year and breaking 8. We've got that going on next year. That's 3 weeks after St. George, Kona St. George. So it's going to be an interesting time, but at least there are options, I guess.
I love it. Tim, as always, it's always such a treat. And I love what you've done for Paralympic movement. When an athlete of your caliber steps in and says, I want to be part of this, and these athletes are amazing, the Paralympic athletes benefit from that. So thank you for that.
Oh, no, I love it.
Tim Don has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob, not quite Kona edition. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Tim, you're the best. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks very much. Cheers, Bob.